Streaker and podcast. It's the Streaker and podcast. It's the Streaker and podcast. It's the Streakers Island podcast. It's the Streaker Island podcast. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed singing, self-proclaimed sports analyst. Whoa, Chazzy's got chocolate protein milk. He's
Fairlife. Not that we're sponsored by Fairlife, but 30% protein. Always sold out at Costco. Can't keep them in the Costco.
Oh. Can't keep them in the Costco. But how are we feeling tonight, boys?
Where's the flea music?
Leafs are at home watching this game. Well, the Oilers are
no flea music. Da, 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 choose your side.
We just had it. And I thought I would spice it up with that scented candle light intro.
Jingle.
My favorite.
So how are we feeling?
Harmony.
Oilers won last game 4-3 in overtime. Do we think the Oilers
win game 2?
You do?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what do they need to do to win game 2?
Do
nothing.
What they did. Yeah,
nothing. Nothing.
Just try not to give Florida don't give Florida a lead.
I don't know. I know I wasn't on to give my thoughts after the post game there, but I think Edmonton played a really good game. I think Edmonton looks like they look speedy, fast. If anything, don't challenge weird goals that will look like good goals.
Yeah.
That was my big takeaway. Like I don't know why he challenged that. Still to this day.
Okay, Jacob, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself as self-proclaimed sports analyst. After 24 hours of cooling down period, can you admit that was a bad challenge and that was a good goal?
Bad challenge shouldn't have counted.
Oh, come on.
Sam Bennett fell into him purposely. There's no denying that.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the game, right? You know,
but it doesn't. I mean, hey, you know what? If Sam Bennett know he can get away, if he's going to do it, I'm surprised Lane isn't calling me out already for saying this stuff about Sam Bennett, or not Lane. Sorry, Chazzy, because I know Chazzy.
Well, I was just gonna say, just like he just walked into Stollers, intentionally,
an accident, and
then he did the same thing to Steady Freddy.
Yeah.
So it's rough in front of that net.
It is, and it is.
When you get pushed into the goalie.
But yeah, no, I think the Oilers are in good shape, right? Like they had that. It looked rough there for a little bit. They were down in that game. They were down 3-1, and they able to get some key goals from their secondary scoring, and of course, when it mattered, they got scoring from Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So we've been talking about this whole time. This is a team that's driven off depth scoring. And goals can come from anywhere, and you really saw it there. That even Matthias Ekholm, the guy who Connor McDavid joked about, that's where he meant it to pass the whole time, and then kind of laughed about it. But yeah, doesn't matter who they pass to right now because everything they shoot's going in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not quite on the same. I mean, I am on the same island as you guys, but I'm not to the point where I think Edmonton doesn't need to change anything. You need to not have a lull like you did in game 1. But the bigger issue for me was actually face-offs. The face-offs were just horrendous. You can't be winning only about 45 or 46% of the draws. You got to get close to 50, if not 50.
Do you try putting Fred Frederick back in center?
I don't. No, you're not going to make line changes, but you're just going to tell the centers to smarten up, Buttercup.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I think the way you do that is by, just maybe stop trying to win faceoffs cleanly. If you're going to lose, at least lose a dirty draw.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that was my big takeaway after game 1. It is still my takeaway going into game 2. If you win if you can just clean up the faceoffs, I think you're in a lot better shape.
Yeah, I mean, like, the only concern I got about Edmonton is there was a time in that game, I would say the first 10 minutes of this.
Here he goes, going to blame Stuart Skinner.
No. I'm not actually going to blame Stuart Skinner.
Have a bad game, and I'm still.
No. I'm just saying the first the second 10 minutes of the first period and the second period, Florida played their game and had Edmonton where they wanted them. If Florida can figure that out again, Edmonton will be in trouble. But I don't think Florida will figure out. I think Edmonton will still win this game. I think the key for Edmonton is just not to get in not to play Florida's mind games and just play their own game.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I can't disagree with you that I think the Florida Panthers will try to bait Edmonton, and Edmonton can't take the bait. But if you're Florida, I think you need more out of – I'm going to keep saying it. You need more to Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, you really do.
He was pretty much invisible that game. Like, if he can't score, he's got to at least impact the game physically. Because as much as he's leading his team in assists, I don't feel he's had a great playoffs. Like, for Matthew Tkachuk standards, I mean, I get it.
For Matthew Tkachuk standards.
If we were in Leafland, we'd be thrilled with what Matthew Tkachuk is doing. But we're not. We're in Pantherland. And in Pantherland, they expect Matthew Tkachuk to be better. They expect him to make bigger plays and bigger moments. And I think you need more out of him if Florida's going to come back. Now, I don't think Florida – I think Florida could easily win tonight. I could see Bobrovsky, who had a bit of an off night in game one. Not saying the game was his fault, but certainly wasn't his best work. I could see him having a really, really good game two and just kind of stealing the show. And if he can do that and get the series in a split going back to Florida, Florida's in very good shape. Edmonton really wants to take a 2-0 series lead heading to Florida. I think they really want that stranglehold, right? But is it a stranglehold when you're the road team for Florida, right? I don't know if they feel they're in trouble until they lose at home. Actually, mind you, I don't think Florida feels in trouble until they lose 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I agree with that.
You saw it in Toronto, right? They were down 2-0. It didn't even phase them.
Paul Maurice brought that up, actually, in his presser.
Yeah, 100%. I say, especially listening to Paul Maurice's comment. Like, if they lost the first game, and he's like, eh. Like, you can tell
Florida's...
Like, you could tell Edmonton's better from last year's experience, but I would say Florida's even better from last year's experiences as well.
Yeah, but it's interesting, though. We talked about Stuart Skinner being a different goalie this year in the playoffs to last year. And I thought in that game one, that was the biggest difference. I'm not saying Stuart Skinner stole the game, but he stole a period. And that's all we needed to do. He had to steal a period. He stole the second period.
Yeah,
and in that second period where Florida really outplayed Edmonton, almost tripling the shots on them, Stuart Skinner only allowed one goal and we're only down 3-1 going into the third.
Yeah.
If you're down 4 or 5-1 going into the third, I mean, the Edmonton Oilers, if any team's going to come back, it's the Oilers.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't. And that's the first time Florida has lost a game leading after 2 periods since Paul Maurice has been their head coach in the playoffs. So that's a big win for Edmonton. But who's a player that you guys would say on each team, though, that you want a little bit more? I want to start with Florida. And I've already said Matthew Tkachuk, so you guys can't say Matthew Tkachuk. I already said it. No. Well, not just for that, Dan. You get to go last. Mr. Dashko, who do you think needs to step up for the Florida Panthers?
I'm going to go Bobrovsky. I just don't – I think in that game he needed to shut it down and be playoff Bob, right? Like, they were up 3-1. That's when they really needed playoff Bob to come through there for them. And he didn't come through. And, Edmonton was able to get to that Victor Arvidsson goal, it was a well-placed shot, but at the same time, he got it on his glove, wasn't able to grab it. That's unacceptable for a goalie who's making $11 million. And then even, Matthias Ekholm, you have the Oilers laughing about the fact that he scored because he played in like 3 or 4 months and then was able to score in like his third game there. And he's not even known to score goals either. So, I feel like if you're the Florida Panthers, you definitely need playoff Bob to show up again because you don't want to be up again and then have the Oilers climb back and do what they've been doing all playoffs, which is making big comeback victories and stealing the series away from you.
No, you know what, Lane? I think that's a good point. And Bobrovsky
100%.
has been good these playoffs, but I don't think he's been quite as strong as he was last playoffs. And It was that Arvidsson goal that you mentioned was the goal I think he really needed to have. I don't really think
Oh.
the overtime goal. I saw this meme everywhere. It's like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at the point, Corey Perry in the corner, Connor McDavid in the corner. Let's cover these guys. Let's leave Leon Draisaitl, 52 goal scorer, wide open in front of that for a one-timer. Like that, you can't blame Bobrovsky on that.
Yeah.
But Mr. Chazzy 5.56, you have not had another update since the last 20 minutes we were on the air. Who do you see as needing to step up for the Florida Panthers?
In game 2, I'm going to say it's going to come from the point Ekblad. He logged 33 minutes, but he only had one shot. He definitely needs to get some shots on net for these guys to score, just get some shots to get through that defensive line of Edmonton. Didn't they blocked, 30-some shots that last game? So I think he's definitely got to be more effective from the point.
Yeah, I would even argue the whole Florida defense needs to be better, right? It was a group that really could not slow down Edmonton's speed, and they weren't as aggressive for some reason. So I expect them to be a lot more aggressive, and Aaron Ekblad could be leading that charge. Now, Mr. Moore, for your money.
Ooh, yeah.
You have
less
options
go
now
before
because
me.
of everyone else. But no, I already said Kachuk, but I'm going to make another one after you're done because I think there's a couple players in Florida need to step up. But Dan, who do you think needs to step up for the Florida Panthers?
Well, I kind of surprised no one said this one. I think it's the obvious answer, but hey, save best of last, right? Maybe Jacob will pick this one. I think it's Sam Weinhart. I mean, Weinhart was your 50 goal scorer 2 years ago. And even this year, he didn't hit 50, but I think he still had 37, 39, something like that. And what does he have for his playoff? Like 4 or 5 goals? Like, come on, boy. He should be up there with, Sam Bennett and Corey Perry and all the other good old boys, right? So I think look for a big goal for him tonight.
Yeah, Dan, I can't disagree with you there about Reinhart. Just looking up his stats, because I put the capital S in stats. Reinhart only has 4 goals. Now, he does have 13 points.
Wow.
But that's not enough. I may deserve.
He did not have a shot at all in that Carolina series.
Really? Holy cow!
Wowzers!
Yeah. Or I guess he had two apples, but
maybe it was something in his trousers.
Can I make I'm going to make a very weird. Well, anyways, I'm going to make a very weird take on this. And you know who I thought had an off game in game 1? Sasha Barkov.
Oh.
I think in the playoffs last year, and Chaz, you're looking at me like I'm insane, but in the playoffs last year, the Florida Panthers top line led by Sasha Barkov completely shut down the Oilers top line, and they looked useless. Draisaitl had 3 assists and no goals. Yes, he was hurt, but at the end of the day, it was a big part of the reason why Sasha Barkov's line helped Florida win the Stanley Cup. I thought in game 1, the Florida Panthers top line struggled against either the McDavid line or the Draisaitl line. I mean, you're letting Kasperi Kapanen look like Connor McDavid going in on a breakaway in OT. And even on the game-winning goal, I mean, I get in hockey school, they don't teach that in hockey school, as they used to say in NHL EA 2009. By hockey school, Barkov made the right decision. But in that game-winning goal, McDavid's in the corner, kind of in a weird spot. I'm just taking away Draisaitl and letting Bobrovsky either make the save or don't. That's just me, because I think when you have a goalie like Bobrovsky, you got to assume he's going to make that save. And no, I think Sasha Barkov needs to be a bit better. I'm not saying he's been bad these playoffs. I mean, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points in 18 games, and a +3. Those are some impressive numbers, right? He's a very good player. Those are Conn Smythe-esque numbers. But I think he's got to be a little better defensively to shut down the McDavid line or the Draisaitl line. Or Edmonton did put them together in the third period of last game. So, yeah, I think Sasha Barkov's got to I think his game's here. He's just got to get to here. It doesn't need to it's not like he's down here. It's not like he's out of the screen or barely here. He's here and he's got to get it to here. He's close. He's right there. But I think he's a guy that need a little bit more from the Florida Panthers.
I think you raise a very good point for it, Jacob. Now, just to contradict that, you look at Barkov's numbers and you look at Sam Bennett's numbers. You could argue Bennett's more of a Conn Smythe candidate than Bennett this year. But the difference is Bennett doesn't play against the other team's top line versus Barkov does. Barkov is kind of the shutdown specialist of Florida. So you think his points total is a little bit down because he's so busy defending, and Bennett has a little more free ice because he's not facing the top line?
No, because Sam Bennett's also used as a shutdown guy. He's there facing McDavid in this series. He's going to be facing Draisaitl, Crimea River. And number two, Sasha Barkov struggled defending the top line last game. Yeah, I actually think his point production is fine for Sasha Barkov. I just want a little better defensively. And I want to start now. Let's look at the Edmonton Oilers lineup for tonight. These lines are from Daily Faceoff, which, funny enough, there's not a face-off every day in someone's life. But TD Bank is telling you can learn about mortgages, but you don't need a mortgage. You're watching the Streakers On podcast. You can be anywhere. You don't even need to be in a home. But we're looking at
the island, bro.
You're looking at the Oilers group, and no changes to the lineup. I thought we might have seen McDavid and Draisaitl on a line together, but I kind of like it's more being used situationally than throughout the whole game.
Well,
I will be interested to see if Corey Perry stays on that top line all game, or if he starts to flip with Connor Brown like he did last game, where they were putting Brown sometimes up with McDavid and sometimes Perry.
Well, it makes sense, as Brown has a history of McDavid and juniors.
And let's be honest, Corey Perry did not have a great game in game one. It didn't matter, but Corey Perry's a guy for Edmonton I think I'd like to see a little more of tonight.
He still made a difference.
I'm not saying he didn't. He assisted the game-winning goal, but he struggled in the first half of the game.
Yeah.
So you boys, how do you boys feel? You feel this is the right call, leaving the lines exactly the way they were previously?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. 100%.
I agree. I would not change these lines one iota. Because I look at it.
Putting Zach Hyman in the lineup.
Oh, you can't put Zach Hyman in the lineup. He's got
I know.
Now, an interesting one, though, is the Florida Panthers. Again, lines from Daily Faceoff. No changes as well. And this is why. This is where now. Do you make changes if you lose tonight?
I would make changes tonight.
Yeah, but guess what? He didn't. So get over it.
Oh, it turns out AJ Greer was injured last game.
Oh,
I know he's still injured this game or not. I saw on Sportsnet, brought to you by Sportsnet, that he was injured.
I gotta give credit to Paul Maurice here and not taking out Thomas Nosek, right? Like, I feel like a lot of, like, especially after the Pete DeBoer incident where it's like you feel like you make one mistake and the coach is getting ready to replace you. I got to give him some credit for not just making him feel bad and putting him in the press box, even though he ended up costing them that game, that he is willing to give him another chance here to play tonight and not just being like, well, you lost the game, so bye.
So it remind me, was he the one that shot the puck out the glass?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Nosek was a game changer in that Leaf series, which is what Paul Maurice brought up, right?
Yeah, that's true. He was.
I like that. I still think Matthew Tkachuk needs to be lower in the lineup. Unless he steps up, and I don't know. And if he is hurt, then why is he playing on the second line? Keep it buck.
I'm going to keep saying it until we do it. We need to put Marchand, Bennett, and Tkachuk on one line.
Too much.
Oh.
You know what will happen though? Then all the rat poison just goes to one line. So then, I also, you know what? I think Paul Maurice is not the type of coach that likes to throw his lines into the blender. And you know what? At the end of the day, this is the lineup that's got you to 3 straight Stanley Cups. It hasn't really. So I guess he feels, look, these guys will either do it or they won't.
Well, let me ask you a question here quickly.
Let me ask you a question.
I should have asked you this as well as we're on the Edmonton lines, but I wasn't thinking. My brain was off on the island. Since we were talking about Florida stepping up, I know Edmonton won and Edmonton looked really good. Is there a player on the Edmonton roster that needs to step up for game 2, or is everyone hunky-dory?
I feel pretty good with maybe Corey Perry a little bit. Just
what do you guys think, you gentlemen?
But overall, no, I really like the whole lineup.
What do you gentlemen think?
I think it's fine. I just think this team is so, like, I really like this team, man. This just feels like such a different Edmonton Oilers team here, especially in the playoffs. Like, I know they struggled getting into the playoffs, and it was a lot of people thought they wouldn't even get past the first round, but you got to give this team credit that once it came time to play, right? Like, this has been a different playoff team. This is a motivated group. This is a depthful group. This is a group that's getting so much scoring up and down their lineup. Like now you got the fourth line chipping in goals. You got the third line chipping in. You got guys who come in for one game and score 2 points. You got Skinner who just randomly shows up and gets 2 points in one night. But no, it's just true. Like
Yeah,
this
100%.
team just feels so. And the thing that I was listening to you guys talk about the game, and I have to agree, the speed of Edmonton is just. It feels like it's killing Florida. Like
Yeah.
I agree with what Jacob was saying in the post game. There, like it just feels like the way they skate up and down the ice, just as the speed that they are able to produce up and down their lineup. I really feel like Florida, you could see, was getting really tired in that game.
Yeah.
They looked
100%.
exhausted. And I think
They
what I
did.
love with Edmonton in this lineup is fast, big, and physical.
Yeah, it's all
Like you
fleet.
look at it, it's a lot of teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're fast, but they can't hit. This Edmonton team went hit for hit with the Florida Panthers. That is not easy to do.
Yeah, 51 hits each is a
Oh
crazy
my
thing
gosh,
like that.
Evander Kane, what? I think, Chaz, you were saying 9 hits in game one? Because Barry Kapanen, I believe, had 5. Like, and by the way, Barry Kapanen, what an absolute legend. Like, this guy is just really stepping up for Edmonton.
I called a hair on the eye when I said put him in the lineup.
So what do we feel about Edmonton's defense going into game 2? Dan, do you still feel their defense is just as good as Florida's?
Yeah, I really do. I know they had a couple off shifts last game, but yeah, they got the victory, right? I think they're a really good team. I think they're very fast. Look at Ekholm with the beautiful goal that got them in overtime, right? I mean, you look at Klingberg, he was getting a lot of big passes up front the last game. Boost Bombs got one of the best shots in the NHL. I mean, even what's his name? Starts with a K. Kuak looked good too, you know? So yeah, I say the only question mark is Nurse. I think Nurse is, my opinion, is one of the most overrated paid defensemen in the NHL. I don't know how he gets $9.5 million, but you know, all the time that he's not being a liability out there, then only power to him.
Lane wants to bring in some knowledge here.
Ooh, I like knowledge.
I will say, I've been so impressed with Jake Waldman, though.
Oh, Waldman, that's the guy I was forgetting. Yeah, that guy's phenomenal.
But go ahead, Lane.
Yeah, no, just looking at the shifts, right? This is the game 1 log for the defenseman of the Oilers, since we are talking about them. But yeah, a few giveaways, but also some takeaways there. You see Wallman.
Yeah, free
right there,
takeaways.
just for a lot of, you see how well spread out it is too. You know, Bushbaum with 32 minutes, but everyone playing around that 24, 25 minutes there. I really think that Chris Knobloch is just, I don't know if he has the better defense, but I think what he's doing with his defense is very impressive compared to what Florida's was. And this is what I tried to say, right? Like, I don't know if they're better, but they're performing at a higher level than I would expect.
Yes.
Florida's. I feel like Florida has the better defense. Yes, they do. They definitely have the better defense, but they're not playing that much better than this defense, which is the scary thing. If I'm the Florida,
it's interesting there seeing on the comments there from Oakfield. You're saying, I'm just going to read comments. Not even harsh. Screw it. This is a novel experience as an Oilers fan. I literally don't care which D pair is on the ice. None of them have them holding your breath. The best depth I've seen in my lifetime. And that's the thing. I never remember even when the Oilers went on those big cup run with Ryan Smith as the captain. You don't really remember another defense that really took over the way this group has. And I agree with you, Lane, when you say they're on paper, they're certainly not better. Oh, cute puppy. They're certainly not better than the Florida Panthers, but you could argue they're playing better right now in the Florida Panthers.
I don't know why we're talking about this, but I disagree with that comment in 06. I mean, you had Chris. I don't know why we're going back 20 years, but screw it.
Because that's the last time the Edmonton Oilers have been in the Cup Finals. That's why.
You got Chris Pronger. Okay.
Overrated.
One of the best defensemen
Overrated.
in history. One of the best defensemen in history.
Overrated.
You had Jason Smith, who's now a really good GM somewhere. I don't know where. Chris Pronger's not overrated, bro. You had Eric Brewer, who was really good back in his day. You had Bergeron who's really good offensively. You had Sammy Seltos or Steos. Steos was his
Sammy
name?
Salo.
Steos, yeah.
Sammy Salo, thank you. He was really good. I mean, you had I don't
Yeah,
think
Dan,
I
the
can
defense
memorize
was
all
good,
6
but
of them,
what
but
I'm
you
saying the difference was that defense, you certainly knew who your top guy was and who your bottom guy was. This defense, there's only a 6-minute spread between Evan Bouchard and Jake Wallman, and Jake Wallman was injured half the game, blocking shots left, right, and center. So
yeah, that's true.
that's the
nice
difference.
time
That
as
year,
well.
you knew as much as I've never been the biggest Chris Pronger fan. I'm just being completely honest. Everyone said he was the best defensive man of that era, and it was clearly Scott Stevens. Wasn't even close. And I think this Edmonton defense is deeper than that defense. It's one of the deepest defense groups I've seen. Now, I have Edmonton. I think it's one of the deepest defense groups I've seen from a Canadian team. Everyone went on about Winnipeg's defense. Well, at the end of the day, Winnipeg's defense couldn't shut down Mikko Rantanen enough. Edmonton's defense made Mikko Rantanen look average. Edmonton's defense is making, did Sam Reinhart even have a shot in game 1, Chassis? I don't think so.
Right, I think he did, yeah.
Well, slap me and call me Sally. I didn't know that. But I don't know. I really like this defense from the Oilers. I still think Florida's is a bit better. But what about Connor McDavid and some legendary company?
Yeah, three in game 1.
Yeah.
But he had none in the Carolina series at all.
Wow.
Wow, that's impressive, though, eh? Connor McDavid from the stat from the NHL Network.
Yeah.
13 points in his first 8 Stanley Cup final games.
Look at the competition where in those names that he's up with. I'm surprised Daniel Briere is that high. Wow.
Oh, Daniel Briere was an absolute legend. Like, I don't think
He really was, yeah.
Another guy that probably should be a Hall of Famer that isn't.
Yeah, I mean, he was so short, but he was so good.
Well,
Maryland is the only one that has more. Wow.
Well, I'm not making fun of his height. I'm just saying that's why a lot of people said he wouldn't do good, but he was excellent. Great player.
But no, I think we're going to get a really good game tonight. I do think McDavid's going to find not just these assist tallies tonight. I think McDavid's going to score.
I think so too.
He had a lot of good chances in that game 1 that Bobrovsky really shut the door on. But how important is it, do you guys think, for Florida to tie this series going back to Florida? Like, I think this game equally as important for both teams. You have one team in Edmonton that really wants to take a 2-0 series lead and hold on to home ice advantage. And you have Florida, who has been the best road team in the playoffs, really looking to find a way to get this series tied so they can get home ice back. Like, would you guys agree that I think both these teams are starving for this win?
You know what, Jacob? I'm going to take a page out of your book here and disagree with you. I agree with you earlier.
Rude.
I think the big game of the series is game 3. Because if Everton wins both games at home, fine, okay. But if Everton wins the game on the road with home ice advantage, then Florida's really up a creek without a paddle, as they say. So I think game 3 is a bigger game.
Yeah, but what you're saying, though, is like for that to be the bigger game, Edmonton has to win tonight. For that to be the bigger game. Because if Edmonton wins tonight,
guess so.
Then they win game 3. Funny enough, I've seen a lot of predictions that Edmonton was going to win the first 3, Florida was going to win the next 3, and then Edmonton to win in 7. A lot of people were predicting the exact same way we had it finish. I'm gonna say this here, and I'm pulling a lane. If McDavid and Draisaitl continue to perform the way they are, I could see this series getting out of hand for the Panthers. They looked exhausted after game 1. And maybe I'm jumping on this bandwagon a little too quickly. But if you're Edmonton, you got to feel like if McDavid,
you can tell it's a Maple Leaf fan in there.
No, this has nothing to do with the Leafs. I don't really know what.
Yeah, it's jumping on too quickly. Every Maple Leafs win the home season opener. Oh, this is our year.
Don't you remember I kept saying that I didn't think they were going to do anything with it until they split up the core 4? I've been saying that for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So absolutely get wrecked. But I look at this and I really do feel if Edmonton, it's not even if they win this game. If they win this game, if they play the way they did through most of that game and don't have that lull, this game, it could end up being a blowout. And if you blow out Florida for game 2, I don't know. I don't know if Florida can skate with Edmonton. I really don't know if Florida can skate with Edmonton. Maybe you guys think I'm crazy, although Lane's looking like he might be in somewhat of an agreement with me.
I do agree with you. I think this
Maybe
is huge.
Lane is the one that said it.
Lane said it about Dallas and Edmonton, which I thought he was crazy. But once Edmonton got going, they were unstoppable. It was the same thing against LA. It was the same thing against Vegas. Once Edmonton got going, and Chazzy's been saying this all year, this team is just different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Chazzy, what are your thoughts on that?
Cup.
Chazzy, you have been too quiet, so I'm going to call you out again. What are your thoughts? Oh, I love seeing that smile. Who's a good Chazzy? But how do you feel about my take here? Do you think that Edmonton could start to run away with this, or do you think I'm just crazy and that it's the defending Cup champions?
Oh, no, they're definitely going to feed off that home crowd tonight, and they're not going to let what happened last year happen this year. And we've said it before, this team looks possessed, and they're on a mission, so they're definitely going to give everything tonight. It's just like you said, what Florida team's going to show up, and can they handle the skating or the momentum or whatever that building's going to carry as an aura to get the Oilers that W. So we'll see.
Yes, I really do wonder. I think the biggest question tonight is, can Florida skate with Edmonton? If they can skate with Edmonton, even if they lose but they don't look exhausted and ran off their feet, then I think this is a series. If we see another game where Florida just can't skate with them, I don't know. But I want to ask you guys now. It's in the Streakers app. Viewers still have about 4.5 minutes to make their picks. So who are you guys taking tonight? I'm going to start off and say I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers to go up 2-0. I said they'd go up 2-0 to start before when we had our first preview show of the series, not a first preview show of life. We've done a lot of these now. But I do feel the Edmonton Oilers will win game 2. Mr. Dashing Dashko, who are you taking tonight?
I'm taking the Oilers as well. I think this is a different team, right? I agree with you guys. I think this team is different. I think they're motivated. I think they have so much scoring, so much depth, so much. Just everything's clicking this year. This feels like a team that isn't going to get stopped by one loss. It's not going to get demotivated even if they lose tonight. I don't think this team is going to get demotivated. I don't think they're going to get sad. I think they're driven. I think they want it. They're showing they want it. The players want it. And they're going to get what they want, which is a win tonight.
Mr. Chazzy 5.56. Who are you taking tonight? And you've been really on the Oilers train all playoffs, even when I was doubting them when they went down 2-0 to the Kings. Do you think they'll take a 2-0 series lead, or do you think Florida's going to tie this series up heading back to the Sunshine State?
Well, there was a big Oilers fan I was speaking to today in Edmonton, and she was saying, let's bring home the cup. So let's go Oilers.
So you're saying Edmonton Oilers tonight.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Mr. More for Your Money, who, by the way, projected the Blue Jays were going on a run, and they've been going on a run. So maybe he's on to something here. Dan, what are your thoughts tonight? Closing statement.
Well, I'm sorry to make us boring TV, but I going to agree with everyone here. I think Edmonton's going to win tonight. I really do. I really think Florida pushed Edmonton to their limit last game, and they got a 2-goal lead and kind of played their game. And
lay it on the line.
I think we will, Leon. I was so confused where I'm like, why is Lane on my screen here but commenting here? I was really had to think for a moment. It's like, what?
I really hope our panel then, when we're all right, because usually in the NFL, when the panel's on one team, it usually swung the wrong way.
Like, literally, it could happen, but I predicted it from the beginning. Series going to go 7. Edmonton win Vertu at home. Florida win Vertu at home, and it'll be a best-of-3 series. So,
I predicted at the beginning. I don't know so much about now, but it is time we sign off and get ready for puck drop. We got to hear that amazing Canadian national anthem at Edmonton. You can't beat it.
That was quick. Yeah. I want some ice cream.
Dan wants ice cream. Breaking news: we did not have meatloaf. So there's another breaking news.
We did have beef, though.
There were onions on it. So Dan, you were very healthy. Good job.
Well, meatloaf have vegetables in it. It's
thank you very much for watching the Streakers Island podcast. Remember, follow us on all the social medias. We do a lot of these shows. We're going to be covering the rest of the playoffs. Hopefully doing some more on the NBA playoffs coming up.
Yeah.
CFL season.
Lane's the expert of that.
But until next time, I'm Jacob Moore, the Self-Proclaimed Sports Analyst. Chazzy, number 5.56. Update pending. Mr. More for Your Money.
Woo!
and Lane Dashing Dashko. Until then, we'll see you later.
Bye bye.
Go Oilers.
Boop, 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 boop.